Hi, I am Wafu, and this is second part of the Autosplitter Guide series, and this time we are looking at a more complex game, which is The Beast Inside. It's quite recent, well, I think it's 2019, not sure, but I believe it is 2019 game. And we are going to make a complete Autosplitter for this game. Just as it is actually now on the in live split. And the reason is because I think there were quite interesting issues in the Autosplitter, and I want to show you how they actually worked and how we worked around them. So yeah, that's it. And we are going to make load removal and automatic splitting, and we will also have automatic start, I believe. Yeah, we will have automatic start, and we will have automatic end. So everything is being taken care of in this tutorial, in this Autosplitter, except for, I guess, resets. I don't know. Anyway, I am going to start with, I already added the currently functioning pointers here. We are not going to be using them. I'm just adding them here just to have a general idea of what's happening, but I will explain how it works. So this time it's a bit easier than in Arx Fatalis for loads. Again, as I said, I always focus on load removal first because that's the most important part, and autosplitting is just for your comfort. So what I would like to do is find a value that is that tells me that the game is loading and or not loading. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to pause the game while scanning to make it a bit easier for me. Again, as before, I have the hotkeys set up, so you should set them up too. And I also added the Beast Inside Win64 shipping exe into the automatic attachment because it makes it easier whenever I close the game. So I'm gonna scan for, ideally, the first idea that I have is scan for one in load, because that's pretty common thing, and it's just it's pretty common that a value of 1 appears in a load, because there's usually a boolean that tells the game that it's in the load state. So I'll scan for 1. It's gonna be a byte because booleans are a byte, and no, booleans are not just binary, even though they can have only 2 values, but in the memory they are byte. So I'm gonna do pause the game while scanning, and I will enter any load. So I will probably do it from the menu, and I'm gonna do a new game. I'm sorry that this is in Chinese. I hope you don't mind that. And once I get on the screen, I will do first scan. I'm in a load. I'll let it wait for a little bit, and then I'll do the scan, so that I'm absolutely sure that it's in a load state, so that I don't do it too early or too late. Now, because this is a weird thing for this game, that now it thinks it's in a load state. Or at least by the value that we have found. But I don't know that. So I will, just for sure, make sure that I am having control of the character. And I will scan for change value, because now it's not supposed to be 1. It's not supposed to be in a load. I could check for 0. That would be the easiest. It would clear the most values. But in this case I will just check for the ones that changed, because I know that when I found a value that was 1 in loads and 0 in the game, it didn't work consistently. So I will just go for changed. Just scanning again, and I'll try to move it a bit more to the right so that you can see it. And move the game to the left. And you can see that we have 15 million values, and that's not too good. And when I scroll through it, there's no static values, there's no green ones, so we are not having it the easy way. Of course, not all of them are displayed, but usually even if it shows you a limited amount, it does show the static ones. So now it can be changing. I don't care if it's changing right now. It needs to be any number but the 1. So I can enter the load again if I want to, but I want to make sure that the value I'm checking for in the load, which is 1, is currently not in any of those values. So I will look for exact value and I will look for 1, but I will tick this, and this will clear all the values that are 1. So I will do next scan, and it removed some of them. We can do a couple more, and then I will then I can again do the reloading checkpoint and scan for change, or I can scan for the 1 again because I know it's gonna be 1. And I'm just experimenting. Let's say I wouldn't know this. This is the first way I would do it. Or the first way would be I would check for 1, and then in game I would check for 0. If that didn't work, I would check it the other way around. I would check for 0 in the load and 1 in the game. And if that still didn't work, I would check for 1 in the load and changed for in the game. Or if that still didn't work, I would check for 0 in the load and for changed in the game. Or again, vice versa, like it can be constant in the game instead. So I would have these many options, and if that still didn't work, I would be trying weird numbers and ranges, stuff like that, unknown initial value, and that would take a lot of time. So I'm trying the easiest methods so far. And for this case, I know that the 1 is in the load, so I will go with that, but be aware that there's many options and you have to experiment. It's all about experimentation. And if you look at other auto splitters, you will figure out that there's like connections between those games, like the loads are very similar. So now I've talked for quite a while, so I will make just another scan just to make sure. And now I want to check for that 1 in the load, so I will reload checkpoint. I will wait a bit just to be sure that it's in load. We'll scan, and I have 800,000 results. I'm currently not doing any more scans in the load, even though the load is still progressing, because I want to clear just the most obvious errors. So I'm doing just 1 here. Again, I'm in the game, so it should not be 1. Okay, and again I will enter the load, and it should be 1 again, so I will scan for that, and now I can start using some unchanged values. I'll do it a couple of times. I'll do 1 more, and I know that I'm being pretty close to the load being finished, so I'm not risking it anymore. Yeah, this still counts as load, so that doesn't matter. But I will just skip it, and I'll do change value because that's So again, I clear the ones. You can see I'm just switching this between exact value and clicking this not for the load. I'll clear some more. I can even hold it, but don't overshoot it. I don't want to remove them by accident. So far we still have a lot of values, but I will try this actually. Okay, I'm not sure if that worked, so I'm not sure if it properly scanned, so I will, just to be sure, undo this last scan. It probably was fine. Oh. Now we have... Okay, so after I held the button for scanning for some time, I can now see that I have 34 values only. And one of them is probably the one that we are looking for. It's probably one of the 4s, which now changed to 5 and 6. I will do a reload, see if it's 1. You can see that it's a little bit delayed. That is sometimes something you have to deal with. That's why I was actually... that's why you should always do the first scans and even the subsequent scans in the middle of the load instead of at the end or start, because sometimes even the value is a bit delayed and that would not be good to just lose those values. So I assume it's one of these 4. I believe it's this one, but I believe all of these 3 work anyway. So I will scan for not 1, I will reload. Maybe this is actually faster. Well, that's not my problem now. I will do that again. Oh, you can see that the values are... No! That the values are changing a lot. Anyway, it can be these values. These seem usable. But I know they're not. Oh! Another thing I forgot is now I actually... So I have a couple of values, and here's the thing. You want to play through the game a bit and see what the values do, and if something like this happens, as you can see there are some 1s. I entered the menu and these turned to 1. They shouldn't turn to 1. So menus, some maps, dialogues, pop-ups, anything like that, you should try to check through them if they are not the number that are on the load, that is on the load. And that way you can just get rid of it. So now I know that these values probably all could work properly. I will instead reload the entire chapter. Okay, and now when we are at this point, we have just a few values. you can add them all into the main window where you have increased update rate, which we did in the first tutorial. And if you don't remember where that is, it's right here. The update interval should be a bit lower than the default. Two of them are 1 in the game, so that was, these two should go. This one is 1. So you can see that such a little thing such as reloading a chapter instead of reloading a checkpoint can change these values to stop working. I will just do another checkpoint reload. The ones I'm using seem, the ones that are used in the auto splitter seem a little bit later, but slower. But let's see what they do at the end of the load. Maybe these are better, but I'm not sure. Anyway, I will put them here to have the updated rate, and I will reload the checkpoint. Yeah, the first one seems more accurate, honestly. I will probably remake the auto splitter, but not right now. But anyway, I know that these values work, and what I'm checking for now is which one is the first one to get to 1 when I enter the load, and the one that actually reacts the best to the end of the load. So the one that is updated in the most consistent way, which seems to be this one. Or these three basically, I'm sorry. And the one that we used in the auto splitter is this one, but now that I'm seeing this, it shouldn't be used. Anyway, I will use it because I can, because I have it in the older one, and I will call it loading. So we have this for our pointer map. Now, this one, I know that it's very easy to pointer scan for, or not very easy, but it's doable with just pointer scans. But I will actually do something more complex, and that will be pointer maps. Anyway, I need to auto split as well, and that is done on chapters. So currently I'm in chapter 1. You can see it on the auto splitter. Whenever I will be playing in this game, if I'm not talking, you can skip those parts because I just need to get to the next chapter. So feel free to do that. Speed up the video or something if you don't want to miss anything. But anyway, I will be checking for this chapter 01 /dv _c1 c01. Now this is a bit hard to understand why it is that way. It is basically because the files in the game are called that way, and we found that out. We found out the first time by playing some older version which had this in the menu screen, and we also can get the files from the game in some way, so we can see that as well. But if you just thought it's chapter 01, you would be able to find it as well, because you could check for chapter 01, then chapter 02, etc. But I will just scan for this because I know it's that one. So I will do a new scan, and it will be exact value string. You could do just this and then increase the length. Now, because I am in a game that's running on Unreal Engine 4, it will be Unicode. Most of the time it will be Unicode. So I take the UTF-16 and do a first scan. Okay, now we have only 65 values, so I'm a bit afraid of that. So I will instead get the gray one here, so that it doesn't care if I can write into the memory. And it will get a couple more values, just to be like sure. Well, not much. Anyway, now this value is kind of weird because it should still be 65, or it should still be the same value. It shouldn't change. So I will just check it at the end of... I will check it just at the end of this chapter. If it did change in some way. And then I will check it in the next chapter if it actually changed. So now you can wait until I get into the next load. So when you see me in an attic or something like that, I will actually be already talking. Okay, so I do like the final thing here, and I will, just to be sure, I will check for it again. Yeah, it cleared some values, so some are gone. And I know that the next chapter will be 2 and 2, of course. So I will just enter the password here, which is faith, and I will get to the next chapter. Now, somewhere at this point, it will change to 2. But now it's for sure 2, because I'm already loaded in. So that's why I did it so late. Now you might be thinking, okay, you have two of them, that's you're done, like you don't need to do anything. Now this is problematic, because this address was very inconsistent. I know that this one is the one we use in the game, in the run, but if I just reload into the menu, the address will change. So this value will be gone. You have no way of knowing this, and this is very important, because if it happens to you that you just lose all the values after doing some scans, it means that you have to do something else. Or you can immediately do a pointer scan. So I will do just a pointer scan for that chapter. I can do pointer map as well. That will be fine. And I will in fact do it, but I'll just try a pointer scan. Let's say 7 max level, let's do the default. I'll do the pointer scan. This might find a lot of values actually. Oh, I'm not on the desktop, that's bad. Let's do maps and do A. So this might take a little bit longer than usual, because this is a bit bigger game than Arx Fatalis, so this scanning might be longer. But the reason why I'm doing it now is because finding this is quite complicated, or realizing this is quite complicated for you, because sometimes you lose these values and then nothing works. Sometimes it really is the memory of the game being this inconsistent and it immediately might need a pointer scan. And sometimes this memory can change even between, or the address might change even between the chapters. So some values you would have to just pointer scan for them all the time. So that's a bit tricky thing. For example, those that change to something else, like you have seen that there were some that stayed on chapter 01/DVC01. Those will not be the ones that you can use for that, but if there are some that that completely like have a different value, it might mean that they need just a pointer scan. I will probably skip this because this will take too long. It's a lot of pointers, so I will not resume. I will just cancel this. And there's a lot of values and it's a lot of stuff. So I will take a look at how many offsets it has, and it seems it had just 2. You can sort it if you want to. I'm not sure how it exactly works because, well, there is not really a possibility to get rid of the long ones. Anyway, because we have so many values, I will do it again, and I will be risking a little bit. So this one I will not change right now because I don't really need to. I don't think it's gonna be that high. But let's say I lower this. For example, you can do 5, you can do 4, and that will save significant amount of time. And if those pointers don't work or it doesn't find anything, I can just increase it. So I will do it again, just with lower level. Of course, just for these parts, just skip to the end. Now I don't have anything to talk about. Okay, we have 910 of them, and I believe there could be, yeah, this one. This is the one we are using in the autosplitter, and it's the same one as this. So we have found that, and the way we would actually filter them again would be closing the game and trying to clear it, either with the filter invalid pointers while actually in-game, or by some other ways, but that should be enough. Or you can just see them. The best way to do it is try to make the, I don't know how the sorting works, so I'm not gonna tell you that, but usually if you click one of them, it will put the shorter ones here. Don't use the thread stack, that's useless, or as of now at least. And you can just pick a couple of them, you can double click them. You can always get back to this, so don't worry about it. and you will add them here, and when you load the game you will see which ones work and which ones don't. So I know this one works, and I will just keep it here as the chapter, and I will actually just save the pointer. Again, pointers, you have to do this on your own. I'm not going to help you anymore. You just have to close the game, find the value again, do the scans, do the pointer maps, and that's it. But here I just wanted to show you that sometimes if you, like now, when you're looking at the chapter, where's this address? I will go into the menu, or I will reload for the first. Doesn't do anything. The address is the same. This works fine, right? Now I will exit out into the menu, and as soon as I click this, it's different address. Even though, but the pointer works. The pointer works. And now when I start the game again, it will change again. So sometimes this is complicated. With the loading, it doesn't happen, so that's good. Okay, so we have this, and we know that the chapter is working. And for the loading, you just do pointer maps, like as I did before. So you do generate pointer map, etc. Sometimes, as you've seen here, there were, I believe, 2 values that had the same functionality, had the same values. In that situation, the addresses are going to be very, very similar. Usually just get one, and remember, and the address will be almost like, it will not shuffle, and most of the time it will not shuffle. So the one that is lower, if they are too close and they do the same thing, the one that is lower will still be lower in every launch of the game. It generally is like that because they are in some structure that has this set position. So for example, if you have 4 values that are the same and have very similar addresses, just get like the last one or the first one, so that you remember that you have to get the lowest or highest, something like that. But remember which one you got. This is because sometimes you do these scans again, and then you have 4 values and you're like thinking that you don't know which one it is. So this can help you. It's not a rule that it has to be this way, but usually it is. Usually it is that way. I'm not going to be doing the scans. You already know how to do that. Generate the pointer maps a couple of times, for example 2 or 3, just to be sure. Right at the start, do pointer scan, just so that you have the list. For example, with max level 7, it shouldn't be higher than that. And well, and that's basically it. Of course, if you are generating pointer maps, you generate it, close the game, find the value again in the new instance of the game, and make a new pointer map. And then you, of course, do the pointer scan, use saved one, and compare results. As we did in the first video, you can go back to it. It's not really that difficult, and I would say quite intuitive. So now we have these 2 pointers. I'm gonna remove this because we know that this is the loading and it is a pointer which we need, and we would get it from pointer scanning this one. So now we are having these 2 values, and I will also show you how to end the game, but I will not actually show you how to do it exactly because I don't have the saves. But we have a value that works similar to loading, and that is control of the character. And I will add the pointer here because I'm not going to be searching for it. You search for it in very similar way to loading. except it's actually just 1 and 0. 1 whenever you can move, and 0 whenever you can't move. So that's gonna be it. So I'm gonna just add it into, just so you can see it, how it behaves. Just gonna add the pointer. And we will just use it in a code just as a little example. Oh, it is not a string, it is actually a byte. It's gonna be just 1 or 0. And I'm gonna name it control because it allows us to control our character. So now it's 0 and I can actually test it. Sometimes there's question marks, that can also happen. So let's go. I cannot move my character, I definitely can't. Maybe now I can, but I'm not in a cutscene, this is just some weird thing. Okay, so the value, I have it named in a bit different way, but now I definitely can't move right now. I definitely can move now, and it is set to 0. So I would call this value like locked controls or something like that. And if I got into a cutscene or something, anything that like doesn't allow me to move, it would actually turn to 1. I cannot show it to you right now, but it would actually do that. So I was scanning for 1 while I was in a cutscene in something that locked my controls, and then I was scanning for 0 when I had just normal control. So we will use these 3 values to make the new script. And we will do some extra things as well. So I will create a new file. It's gonna be ASL. And first we need to make the state again. And again, that is this long thing. Again, this is important because, for example, you can be starting this exact game. You can be starting this by the file that is called thebeastinside.exe, but it actually just is some launcher and it will launch this. So this is very important. I will just copy it here from a different file because that's easier for me, but you have to type it here. I'm not sure if you can, maybe you can actually copy it some way, I'm not sure. Maybe this allows you to copy it or something. Maybe not. I'm not sure. Maybe in the processes. But let's not worry about that. So now we have these 3 values that we are going to be using, and we need to make the autosplitter. You may have noticed that this was the default of like when I scanned for chapter 01 and the ladder, we actually got Unicode string 16. This is a problem because in Cheat Engine this will work, but in ASL script these values are Unicode and they just need to be twice as long for this case. We have a tool that you can use for debugging. So for example, I will actually, if you had string 16 chapter and something, you could do an update, which updates every frame, I believe. You could print it like so. Oh, I have chapter. current chapter again. Okay. If this was a number, you have to look up a conversion from number to string in C#. So it would be something like to string, something like that. I don't know how it's exactly in C#, so it would just print an error otherwise. Anyway, this will print it. But you can only see it in tools such as DebugView, and you would see that the string is too short. So you would just add more, and in this case it's 32. So yeah, I will show the DebugView in some other video, I guess. Maybe I can show it even this one. I will see. So we have this here. I will add those three things. So we have a byte and that is what we call loading, because it's 1 in the loading, so it's gonna make sense. And it is, and we are gonna copy these parts for the pointer. Don't forget that it's hexadecimal, so we have to add the 0x, and once we're done with this, just add semicolon, and this value is now working. We will do the same for chapter. Don't forget that it's actually the string 32 and not 16 in this case. And go, we have another one, and the one that we just copied from that. I can copy that from my regular file. So that's gonna be, it can be actually Boolean, I believe, but I'll keep it at byte because I'm not sure. So I'll call it control, and we'll just paste it here. So these are the values that work, and I'll save it, for example, as tbi.asl, as in the beast inside. I will actually show you the debug view just to make you happy. I'm not sure if I will find it, but I hope so. Feel free to skip until I have the window open. DebugView here. So this is DebugView. You can get it, I believe, on Microsoft website. I'm not sure. But because I have this simple auto splitter, I will do what I did before, and I will actually change it to string 16 so that this is what cheat engine would suggest you. So, or it would look like that. So I'll add the update, I will print the current chapter. I'll save it, and I can, and this is working auto splitter, by the way. This is gonna work already. This also prints a lot of debugs from other applications, so don't be too confused about that. And I will edit layout, I will add control scriptable auto splitter, and I will add that one. So now it's printing chapter O, and that's wrong. That's not 16 characters, right? That's like just a couple, just a fraction of it. It might be 8 even. Yeah, it's 8 characters, which doesn't make sense. But that's because it's Unicode. Whenever I increase this, will just make it a bit smaller. Let's say I do 20. You can already see it increased in size, and it's printing chapter 01 slash. So I'll do 32, and it's printing the entire thing. And this is what needs to be in the autosplitter. This is what value the autosplitter works with and that you compare against. If I did 31, it will print an unknown character. So even just 1 byte off might be wrong. If I do 33, again, still wrong. Even though the entire thing is there, it's still wrong. So it needs to be absolutely accurate. So DebugView for checking the values that autosplitter reads. Anyway, this is the addresses, and we will start with splitting and load removal and starting the splitter. So I'll just put it here, and let's start with loading again, because as I said, to me it is the most important one, and we will just return current loading is 1, because again we were checking for 1 in the load and for any other number in the game. As you can remember, we were checking for 1 and not 1. So that's it. Now you might be wondering that before it was enough to do just this. This only applies when you have a bool, which is just 1 and 0, so it doesn't need to. So this is 1 and this is 0, like, or not. So that's it. But even with bytes, like 0 still works as false with byte and other numbers. But in this situation we couldn't really do that. Maybe not current loading would work, but because we are working with numbers, I don't want to mix it up. And anyway, this is the load removal. So I will try that. I need to check game time. I will start the timer in game. I will reload. It's a little bit delay, as I said. I will need to actually fix this because there was some delay. Maybe, I don't know if I can fix it. Maybe there was another issue which I would find later, but I will try to do that. But anyway, you can see that it's totally starting in the load, and there we go, it works. So there is one problem though. I've made this auto splitter and people have been telling me, hey, loads don't stop, and I was wondering why. So we found out, I'm not gonna give names, but the people who worked on this, basically, you can check it on YSplit. We found out that for some people, this value in the loading value in loads is not 1, but for some people it just adds the question marks here. Now this was very strange, but otherwise it worked, so that's why it was strange. But we fixed that quite easily. If there are question marks, that means it's not pointing to any memory, so it means it's null. And if for one person it's 1 and for the other person it's the null, we can just use the null. The problem would be if there was one person for who it is 1 and for the other person it's the other number that is supposed to say you are in game. So in this case we can easily make it work for everyone by doing this. Because for me it was 1 in the load and it works fine, but for the other people it was null. or the question marks, basically. That's null. So this will still work, and it will work also for the people for who it is this way. However, there is loading. I will not show you the load again, it just works like this. And now we have the splitting and starting. So be right back. Okay, that was a little phone call, so I had to leave here, and I don't remember where I ended. Yeah, it was the splitting. Anyway, I'm gonna do the splitting now, and I'm gonna first do the easy way. So I'm just gonna add split, and you pretty much can just do this. You return the current chapter. Why do I keep writing this? And it's whenever it's like different from the old chapter. And this should split for you. So this is a very easy way to do it. And this will just split every time. But sometimes you don't want to split every time. Sometimes you want to split only some chapters. So the thing is, in this game it doesn't really matter that much, but some chapters are just too short to even be a split, or they are just auto-scroller, so you don't really need the split here. And for that you might want to just disable the splitting. However, there is another way to there's a way to do this. There are settings in live split, and we will go through them in a while, but first well, no, we will go through them now. So I will just copy them from the previous auto splitter, but I need to explain what startup is and what init is. Startup is whenever you load the script. That's what will happen whenever you load the script of the... So whenever you start live split, essentially, or when you click activate here. Init is what happens when the game is loaded. So basically you want to have it in the startup. Don't worry that it's such a long piece of code. It's not that complicated. So this is a dictionary. It can be done in other ways. I find this one to be quite easy to understand. So we are having this. This is the value that is actually in the memory. And we just have some title. This will be in the settings to show people anything like readable rather than this. And what this does is, I will first explain this. So settings, this is always available in LiveSplit. We add the some value that is for example the chapter name, but this is the one in memory. This is the default state, and this is what it looks like to the player. So whenever I save this, and this is just a simple structure, which is a dictionary, which means that there are two values where there's string and a string, and it just has this syntax. You don't have to remember it, you can easily Google this. And the for each basically means that when you have this for each var tag in vars missions, so this is the vars missions, vars is custom variables. So basically for each tag, and tag is this. You don't have to call it tag, you can call it like element, item, anything. So for each of these items, it will do this. And from the item, it will take the key, which is this one, and the value, which is this one. You just have to have some knowledge of C#, but I think it's quite easy to understand. And now when I go back to the script of AutoSplitter, boom, we have settings, but they currently don't do anything. You can untick them or tick them, but they will not do anything. So in the split, I'll actually move it a bit higher so that I can explain it better. So what we want to do is we now have in these settings we added a lot of things, and they are basically labeled by this for the code. So for example, settings, and this is just label. This is what the user sees, and this is what is visible in the code. So this value holds what the user inserted there. So if they ticked it or have it ticked, it is true, and if they didn't or unticked it, it is false. So this is false, and we want this to and as you can see, this is the chapter name, and we have the chapter name, so we can access it by doing current chapter. And this means that it will find the chapter in the settings, the current chapter in the settings, and it will find, return the true or false value of it. What was that stutter? And based on that, we can continue. So I will comment this for now, and I will do a little bit of change. So instead of doing this, I will add an if here, which means basically that if looks like this. So if this is true, if what's inside is true, this will happen. Otherwise, it just goes forward. So we want to check if the chapter changed. If the chapter changed, it makes sense to ask if it should split for it. So we can do if another time, but we can just do return the chapter setting, which is true if the user ticked it, etc. So this will only split the chapter if we want it to split by the player settings. So that's it. Now there are 13 chapters, and we don't handle two splits now. We don't handle the start and we don't handle the end of the run. That is easy to fix, but also a little bit complicated. The start will be easy. So I will open Cheat Engine again and the game. So now we can see that we are in the menu, and what we want to do is whenever we click on this, it should start the timer or something like that. So our chapter is currently main levels / DV main menu something. So we definitely want to split on the chapter 1. So that's the first thing we have to know, is that whenever I click this, now it changes to chapter 1. And now it should start the timer, obviously. As well as that, we need to somehow check that it was done from the menu, and we can do that very easily because we know that the menu is currently that we have a chapter now, and we want to basically what we could do, I can create a start which starts the timer. I could return current chapter equals, and it's gonna be the chapter 1. I could do that. So I will do this and I will try that. Well, actually try that. So no, not this. I will make a new game. It will probably start on its own, which is fine. And it seems even load removal works, even though now this is not a load, but it doesn't matter because we don't have control of the character. Sometimes these values don't work that well. So timer is running, and let's say I reset. I decide to reset. Oh, I'm immediately at 0, but it resets. It gives me the timer again infinitely. So where's the problem? I am in chapter 1 and I'm starting whenever chapter is chapter 1. This means that I'm still in the chapter 1, but I should start on that condition. So we need to make this a bit more complicated. We need to check for the chapter we are in, and also only start whenever a chapter was changed. So in the menu there is a different chapter. There's the menu chapter, main menu chapter. So instead what we do is we don't check for this right now, but we will check for the change of the chapter first. So this means whenever a chapter changes, the run starts. This would work a bit better, but still, if we get into the menu, it would start the timer. So we would have to occasionally reset it. I will actually show that to you. So the timer is now... I will reset that. Now it's not doing anything, and whenever I enter the menu, it started. Now it doesn't restart all over again, but I still needed to only start on the chapter 1, because otherwise it was some accidental load into a different chapter and I don't want to start there. So I will connect these two with double AND, which means that this has to be true and this also has to be true. So I will connect them. And what this says is, if current chapter is different from old chapter, it will also check if the current chapter is 1. If all of these are true, it will split. It will start only when I enter from the main menu to this. It started and it seems like it's working. Of course, there's some hiccup with the timing because, as I said, I probably need to fix this. And I will try to reset. That's fine. I'll go to main menu. That's still fine. I'll create a new game. Start the timer. So we have everything working right now, but the end of the game is still not working, of course. And I will actually tell you how the game ends in terms of the code, or not the code, but of the code of the auto splitter. So we have a situation where the last split is just an auto splitter. And I believe you enter 3 unbreakable cutscenes, so your controls are locked for like 3 times or something like that. So, or maybe 4, I'm not sure right now. But there are many ways to end your to make your end split, and it's gonna be actually in the split. And it can be checking for boss's HP to drop to 0. It can be just like cutscene number or something like that, cutscene string. But in this case, we will just use the locked controls. So I have the control here, and I know that when I'm on the last chapter, which is chapter 13, I want to split, but only after I reach the final cutscene. So there is, I believe there's, I'm not sure how many there are, that doesn't matter. So I will actually, whenever my controls are locked in that chapter, I will split. But it needs to be on the 3rd or 4th one, I'm not sure. So what I need to do is I will create init. And here I will create a variable that's gonna be called like end split. I call it that way at least. And this means, this is telling me that this is a number that will tell me when to split for the last split. And currently it's 0, and it's gonna be increasing. So if that number, and again vars are our custom variables that have nothing to do with the game, they're just some helpers that we use in the code. So I will use that, and if it is higher than 3, I will reset it, because you might want to do another run which should reset it. That's the first thing. And you set it to, so you set it to 0 and you return true. So if there is more than 3 control locks happening at all, or if this number is higher than 3, it will reset the number back to 0 so that you can do another run, and it will return true so that it splits. And this won't work because we are not doing anything with this. We need to somehow change this number. For that we have update, which updates every frame, I believe, and we will check for two things. So we can check for the control. So if alt control, it can be boolean, but that's whatever. If alt control is different from current control, or if it changed basically. So I could have just, I maybe could have checked if they just changed, that's fine. Then it's gonna increase the number of these, and I can do this plus 1 or this, and this also adds 1 to this. So whenever I lose control, and I previously had the control, it will increase it. So it will count the amount of controls I lost. Just to not confuse you, you can do that. If it's one line, you can add the brackets. Otherwise, if it's one line, you don't have to add the brackets. Otherwise, it needs to be like this. I will add it just to not confuse you. I believe it can be just this, honestly. Oh no, it can't. The reason why I cannot do that is because I want to only count the transition from not having controls to having controls. If I checked for every change, it would increase this number even when I lost the controls, even when I lose the controls and when I gain the controls again. So I only want to do it when currently the controls are locked and they were not locked before. So that's the first part. And now this would count for every chapter, so it would make the split like on the chapter 3 or something, on the chapter 4. And I don't want that, so I will actually start counting the splits only in the chapter 13. So we already know this. We just add another end and check if current chapter is the chapter 13. Oh. And this should just increase the split whenever we lose control and when we are in chapter 13. In other chapters this won't do anything. And because we check for this, on the fourth control lock it will end the timer. Or it will split, but because it's a last split, it will end the timer. So it's a little bit complicated. I guess you have to go through this really slow. There's a lot of things to think about. It's not really that long, but you have to use some creative logic to make something like this. From me, that's all for this tutorial. Again, contact me on Discord if you have any questions and would like me to cover something else. And from me, that's all for now. So, bye.